Fit to Love, episode 153, Sunscreens Create Skin Cancers.
Fit to Love is physical, emotional, and spiritual fitness to achieve the happy life you deserve. From exercise to cooking, relationships, and spirituality, you'll find all the inspiration you need right here with our host, JJ Flazanes.
Hello and welcome to Fit to Love Wellness Wednesdays. Today's show, sunscreens create more skin cancers and melanomas and are toxic to humans and fish. We have back Dr. Elizabeth Plourde. She is a menopause practitioner, medical researcher, health educator, and internationally known author whose books, EMF Freedom, Solutions for the 21st Century Pollution, and Sunscreens Biohazard, Treat as Hazardous Waste, reveal how to reduce the health impact of wireless devices and alternatives to the sunscreens that can lead to the skin cancers they were intended to prevent. The cell phones and Wi-Fi we are now surrounded by create a variety of symptoms, including headaches, insomnia, itchy skin rashes, dizziness, nausea, and heart palpitations. Essential for everyone, Dr. Plourde offers simple, inexpensive techniques for cell phone and Wi-Fi radiation survival in today's electrified world, as well as safer sun exposure. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Plourde.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be able to share this research with you and to alert people to stop the insanity of pouring sunscreens on their bodies and on their children. It's very, very toxic, very hormonally active. I was in shock as I started studying them.
Well, if you haven't heard our first show, Dr. Plourde and I did a show about cell phone health hazards. It was amazing, and I definitely invite you to go back and listen to that. And we really covered all kinds of things from symptoms that you can get from cell phones and Wi-Fi use and how it affected your hormones. And we intertwined a little bit in that show about the sunscreen. So here's what I love about the research and work that you do. You validate all of the intuitive things I already know. And not that I've learned amazing. I'm not saying I know all this stuff, but in terms of, you get that hit of that doesn't seem right. And it's not until later that then you learn the research and, if you will, provide the scientific evidence of why you just intuitively thought that just didn't seem right. And I've always felt that way about sunscreen. And I every time I put it on my body, I think there's just something not right. And I'll do it because I don't want to get wrinkles, or someone tells me that I need to. And half the doctors out there tell you to use sunscreen. So let's start with, why do you say that sunscreens actually lead to cancer?
Well, it's an interesting journey that I've been on. Being a North American certified menopause practitioner, I spent 11 years studying women's ovarian hormones, just those three: estrogen, progesterone, testosterone hormones. 11 years just doing nothing but that, and how they interact in the body and every system. And I'm also a scuba diver. I've been scuba diving for 50 years. I am thrilled that I've had the benefit of being able to see our pristine corals, gorgeous corals around the world. And I've seen the corals dying. And I was in Hawaii when the headline said their coral were dying for global warming. And so for the warming, I was in Hawaiian waters. I've been swimming Hawaiian waters for 40 years. And the water was colder than normal. I had to force myself in, and I inched in very slowly. That's how cold the water was. And that's what's happened as far as the heat on the Earth. We hit a high in 1999 due to solar flares, and we have been cooling ever since. In fact, when I did the research, the whole North Pacific, from California all the way over to Japan, was cooler than normal, and that's what I was experiencing in these Hawaiian waters. And yet their coral were just dying. It's hard to scuba dive and be over coral that is just dead. It looks like a graveyard, and literally I start crying, and it's very difficult to cry while you're scuba diving. So very difficult. I wanted to figure out why, because when they were saying it's caused by global warming and the water's colder than normal, my research brain said, I want to find out. So when I started the research, my husband said, "You're a hormone specialist. Why in the world are you, investigating sunscreens?" But it turns out that they're very hormonally active, very potent endocrine disruptors. They're estrogenic, they're anti-estrogenic, they act like a testosterone, but most of them act like anti-testosterones, hugely potent anti-testosterones. And this is absolutely disrupting our children in the fetus, in their fetal development. The fish that are exposed to the one primary sunscreen chemical that is now in 97% of Americans' blood supply. 97% of the people tested have it in their blood, even those who say they've never ever used sunscreen, because it's ubiquitous now. It's in our oceans, our rivers, our lakes, it's in our water supply. It doesn't come out in waste treatment plants. So this has become a huge problem. That one chemical, when fish are exposed to just it, the fish become what's called intersex. They have eggs in the testicle compartment and they have testicle material in the egg compartment. And tragically, that's what we're seeing in our children. In my book, Sunscreens, Biohazard, I describe all the biochemical reasons why there's a connection of the sunscreen to autism. And I have talked to various autism teachers across the country as I've been flying around the country speaking to medical conferences. And they tell me that they have children with both sets of genitals in their autism classes. So this is happening to our children, this intersex. And to me, this is just such a crime against humanity, when the truth is that the sunscreens should not ever be used anyway. The whole point is that all they block is the ultraviolet light, the UVA and UVB, and now they're just stressing you've got to wear the broad spectrum sunscreen, and that includes UVA and UVB. Well, ultraviolet light is only 4% of the entire solar spectrum that's hitting our bodies. 4%, that's all. And then there's the visual spectrum. Then 47% of what's hitting our bodies is near infrared radiation. And so that radiation goes much deeper. It goes inside our cells, it goes inside our mitochondria and causes damage. And this is what causes the skin cancers and melanoma. The dermatologists know that they can only block with sunscreens that 4% UV, and they're blocking the sunburn. So people sit in the sun a lot longer than they should because they don't have that red warning light. I think of it as a red warning light on the dashboard. You've run out of antioxidants in your skin and now you're causing damage. So that's no longer happening. So they're sitting in there, their skin absorbing this 47% of the near infrared rays, and this is what's causing the damage. Skin cancers and melanoma have just climbed since sunscreens were introduced. So the whole concept is wrong, and they can't do anything about that near infrared because it goes so deep. I attended an international dermatology conference where they had the slide up that I show in my talks about the 4% and 47%. And the dermatologist says, and there's nothing we can do about it, and just went on to the next subject. So they know that this is causing the damage.
So I'm going to pause you for a second. So I want to be clear that we are told to put sunscreen on to block so that our skin doesn't actually turn red right away and we can be in the sun longer. But what you're saying is it actually the sunscreen and the chemicals in the sunscreen that's causing the cancer, or the fact that we're out in the sun longer?
That we're out in the sun longer, absorbing this near infrared frequency that they can't block out.
So sunscreen in itself isn't necessarily causing cancer, or the chemicals in the sunscreen.
That's true. That's true. It causes damage, though. It causes hormonal disruption. And the kids safe, the zinc oxide, that is such tiny particles. They're 1/5000th the diameter of human hair. And they say that we don't absorb it, but the studies show that they're absorbed everywhere. They're absorbed in the liver, and they cause actually damage, pathological lesions in the liver. And it's so tiny, it goes through the blood-brain barrier, and so it enters the blood, it enters the brain and kills brain cells, disrupts a brain enzyme that's a very crucial enzyme. So we're being told that, oh, hey, this is safe for kids. It's not. And so what they did was, my book really says that these nanoparticles, they said there's so much proof of the damage it's caused throughout the body. So what the manufacturers have done is they've come out with non-nano, we're micronized. And so we're safe, we're natural. They're selling it a lot as natural mineral sunscreen. And this is absolutely not the truth. The studies that show the difference between the nano size and micronized size, they both cause damage. The micronized, actually, what they've found goes into the bone marrow and disrupts the development of our blood cells. So they both cause damage. And what they did, the difference between nano size and micro, nano size is less than 100 nanometers, And so they're saying micro is safe at 160 nanometers. When you're down at 1/5000th the diameter of human hair, it is totally meaningless to go between those two sizes, and they both cause problems. And the nanoparticles or the micronized, the phytoplankton in the ocean absorb them until they burst. So they're killing the bottom of the food chain in the ocean, which is the phytoplankton. And there's definite proof that the major chemicals, as well as the butylparaben that they use to stabilize and preserve the sunscreens, all of those kill the coral at a very low concentration. If they put coral in with a concentration that would be the same as if you put sunscreen on, went and took a shower, and then got in the ocean. That's how little that they use, and the coral's absolutely dead, completely white and bleached in 96 hours.
Okay, so as a researcher, your verbiage is so science and stats and good stuff that even I, who am very sharp, am having a hard time assimilating. So I want to slow this down for everybody who's listening so they're not completely bombarded with all the terminology as well as trying to visualize what's going on here. I want to go back to this whole conversation of sunscreens creating cancer. Sunscreens creating cancer because we are staying in the sun longer because, like you said, that red light of the sun burning our skin isn't coming on and we are staying in the sun longer. Yes?
Yes.
Okay, next. Now, the ingredients in the actual sunscreen, however, may not cause cancer directly, but they can have hormone disruptions. Yes? Okay, now let's talk about which ingredients in those sunscreens, or is it just every single sunscreen? There is no good sunscreen. They're all bad.
Yes, that's true.
Okay.
So what I found in my research is red raspberry seed oil, which would be natural, no harm, no hormone disruption, or not tiny particles killing our brain cells. Red raspberry seed oil has an SPF of either 25 or 50, depending on the UV wavelength, the ultraviolet wavelength. And we talked to manufacturers and gave them this idea. They found out from the FDA that no chemical that is not on their list can be tested for SPF. So they couldn't even bring it to the FDA to get an SPF rating. Only the chemicals that are on their list can be rated for SPF, and there's not one chemical that is safe. And I go through all these chemicals in my book, Sunscreens, Biohazard, Treat as Hazardous Waste. I go through chemical by chemical of the harm that it's causing in the body.
Now, out of curiosity, you're a Ph.D.
Yes.
You also are, the C.L.S. stands for what again?
I'm a clinical laboratory scientist, so I'm still licensed in the state of California. And California is important because California requires much more intensive training in biochemistry than most of the other states in the union. And so my training was very intense, very comprehensive, but I'm very grateful for it because it's what allows me to read these research reports and understand what's happening in the cell to be able to put it together in a book format to say, this is not good.
And as a researcher, would you consider yourself part of the Western medical community?
I would not, because I believe that a lot of what we're doing in Western medicine, the standard of care, is very unhealthy and not healthy.
Okay, that's all I wanted to know before we had the rest of this conversation because I didn't want to offend you and I think that Western medicine has its place. But as I've had other physicians on the show who disclose that their whole education was funded by the pharmaceutical companies, and the pharmaceutical companies are the ones that are approving the drugs because they want you to buy them,
Right.
and that they're all chemical based when we have a lot of natural things that are already out there that can be doing some of the work, and we don't need to go to drugs so quickly. I just wanted to make sure,
Right.
because that story you just told about the red raspberry seed oil and not getting approved by the FDA, are you shocked? I wouldn't be shocked because it isn't something they can patent and make money off of.
I
Right?
must admit, over the 30 years I've been doing the research, I had initially approached the NIH, the National Institutes of Health, when they were going to come out with the Premarin and Provera for menopausal women, that study, 16,000 women over 10 years. I already knew because of my research that it would cause problems. It would cause increased heart disease. It would cause blood clots, and was very harmful for women to take. I called the NIH because I still believed that they would be behind health. And at that point realized that they're not, because they did not listen to me, and they stopped the study at 2 years with increased blood clots and increased heart disease. It's just simple biochemistry that those combinations are horse estrogens because it's horse urine, and there's synthetics that they created in the lab that nothing human, and that's why they don't work. And it's given hormones a bad name. And so many women don't take estrogen at menopause because they're worried about breast cancer, when in reality, it's really protective. We need these hormones. So yeah, I finally understood that the government is not about health at that point.
Right. And I'm not trying to be anti anything. It's just about giving everybody the information that you may not hear in other places so that you can then decide who you're going to trust. And I'm always an advocate of doing your own research. We've had Dr. Alan Peters do The Truth About Bioidentical Hormones on this show. So if you haven't heard that, and I'm sure, Dr. Plourde, we can have you back on to do stuff about menopause. I'd love to have you back again and talk about the benefit of hormones, because I also am in agreement and know that bioidentical hormones do create a situation that is much more healthy for our body than anything synthetic, and that most synthetic things are going to be rejected or have some kind of bad side effect anyway, because of just the nature of the fact that they aren't bioidentical and they are synthetic. So, but let's not go down that tangent too far, because we're working on sunscreens.
I would love to. Well, the thing is that, here I am a hormone specialist. When my husband said, "You're a hormone specialist, why are you doing sunscreens?" But I needed to be a hormone specialist in order to describe what these hormonally active sunscreen chemicals are doing.
And so now that we've established that no sunscreen is good, and that they all have hormone disrupting chemicals in them, and that you're not going to get FDA approved if it's something that's natural, we do want to talk about and now focus on, because we're all about solutions and empowering people on what they can do. We're going to start talking about how we can protect ourselves safely without all these side effects. But before we do that, I do need to take a break and thank our sponsors. Do you want to look and feel years younger? Learn more about your hormone health and how to get properly tested. Sign up for the Healthy Hormone Kit at nourishingwellness.com. It features the essential tests you need to tell your doctor to order for you to learn more about your current levels. Plus, you'll receive lots of healthy eating and lifestyle tips to improve your hormone health naturally. Again, that's www.nourishingwellness.com. Is your website working for you? If it's not, and you're frustrated with your brand, website, or current online results, Every Angle Media can help transform your existing business presence and build you a website that works when you're not working. Every Angle Media is a full-service web development firm that specializes in solving problems with open-source solutions. We offer complete design services, custom content management systems, fully integrated e-commerce solutions, cross-platform mobile development, and custom third-party integration, and we're here to help. Visit our site to see our work at everyanglemedia.com or give us a call at 310-798-7228. Again, that's everyanglemedia.com. All right, Dr. Plourde, so now that we've outlawed all sunscreens, they're bad, how can I not get wrinkles and protect myself from skin cancer?
Well, amazingly, the research that I did for the electromagnetic radiation and the sunscreen absolutely dovetail, because it's all radiation, and the radiation is causing oxidation damage. And they've done a lot of research. I have a whole chapter in my book, The Sunscreens Biohazard, that describes how the antioxidants in our diet, the supplements that we take, the foods we eat, can actually protect us from the damage that's happening. We start in burning when we run out of antioxidants in our skin. So if we have a lot of antioxidants, we don't burn. We do not have skin damage. I've done radio shows where I've had callers call in and say, "You're absolutely right." I had a man say, "I work outside all day with no shirt. I eat a high antioxidant diet and don't even turn color." And this is true. I hear from people saying this. One of the supplements that I describe in the book is astaxanthin. And one of the callers said that she only used astaxanthin as a supplement when she went to Hawaii and was in that hot tropical sun. She said she was just fine, no problems whatsoever. So our body is designed to protect itself. We just need to give it the ingredients to do so. And that chapter, I could not believe all the research that had been done, where they would give people high, medium, and low doses of a particular antioxidant, put them in the sun. And they found out that the high dose would protect from any skin turning. And they all work together synergistically. So I described that in the chapter too, because the vitamin C needs the vitamin E. They all need to work together. So it's not just take one antioxidant. You really need to create a diet where all of these are combined, all the deeply colored fruits and vegetables, the purples especially, very, very protective. And they're just beginning to do that research for electromagnetic radiation. And so far, they found garlic powder very protective for the oxidation damage that's happening from the electromagnetic radiation. They've figured out ginkgo biloba, absolutely the same thing. And vitamin C and vitamin E working together. They need to be together. They protect. So what it is that we need these antioxidants not only for solar protection, but also for the electromagnetic radiation that's hitting us so much.
So in both of your books or in one of your book, do you go over sort of like the perfect diet for both of these things?
In the sunscreen book. The sunscreen book has the whole chapter outlined. And I just mention it because it's only the beginning of the research about the electromagnetic radiation. It's only those few things they've tested, but they are so protective. I'm sure that everything that's outlined in the sunscreen book will eventually prove to be protective against electromagnetic radiation, because it's like I said, the oxidation damage, that if you bring in antioxidants, it heals the damage. And the other thing about skin is I've talked to so many people who say they put on coconut oil before they go in the sun, and they just love it. It's very protective. And afterwards, after sun, if indeed you're out there too long and you didn't have enough antioxidants, olive oil in the skin after the sun, it actually repairs the DNA damage that occurred.
That's such good news. You've just given me so much good news. If you've been listening to the show and watching the Tasty Tuesdays, you will know how happy I am to hear about purple. So Jeannie Peters and I did beet kvass. So if you're drinking your beet kvass every morning, you're getting your purples and your probiotics. Garlic powder, I'm all about garlic. I put garlic in everything. And coconut oil is like my best friend. So I love hearing that it's protective and also nourishing. I would think, though, that putting oil on your skin before going out would make you more susceptible to burn, though.
But not when it's the coconut oil. Coconut is just an awesome substance. That's, and the thing that I find fascinating, too, is that when you look at the fruits and vegetables as you get closer to the equator, they're all brightly colored. And as you get close to the equator, there's lots of coconuts. So it's like we were provided with what we need depending on where we are on the earth. They're there to help protect us.
Such good news for tropical fruits and coconut. And then I love olive oil after the sun. That's amazing, because Jeannie and I also did a show about what oil am I supposed to be using, and we went through every single oil in terms of cooking. And now this gives, because obviously olive oil is up there to being one of the better oils to be ingesting, but now to put it on your skin after and your coconut oil before, I mean, who needs to go to the pharmacy anymore?
No, you don't. And I talked to so many people who have been doing this, and they all say that they're fine, absolutely fine. The only ones that I haven't had input from would be very white, red hair. They might need more, but it could be that your beet drink could be just the ticket for them.
That was Beet Kvass on a Tasty Tuesday. It's awesome. Yes, everyone check out Beet Kvass on a Tasty Tuesday. So great. This is really exciting news. I love hearing about antioxidants and high doses for internal sunscreen. I know that also pomegranate. I know that Dr. Murad has a product that you ingest for sunscreen production, and I think the base of it's high doses of pomegranate.
That would make sense because of its bright red color. Absolutely.
Excellent. Now, your books, can we get them on Amazon or Barnes & Noble or just your website?
All of that. They're available everywhere. Our website for the sunscreens, there's a lot of information on that website. It's sunscreensbiohazard.com, and it's sunscreens with an S, so sunscreensbiohazard.com. Just a tremendous amount of information. So do go there and take a look. I also have a whole list. You can just get the list off this website that just lists the supplements, and I have an index in the back of the book that describes all of the foods that have been proven to be solar protective.
I am inspired to have them all on a Tasty Tuesday now. Let's feature and cook around all the foods that can help us protect ourselves from the sun. Now, people, I've heard you talk in the last show about people calling you with different issues to get tested for EMF and other things. Can you tell people how else you work with people?
I do consulting. I've done menopause consulting around the world for the last 20 years, and my consults have just switched from menopause to electromagnetic sensitivity symptoms. People are so sick everywhere. I've been consulting wherever smart meters go in, and that includes Canada and Australia and all over the nation. And I'm very glad to work with people. I really am. I have a very nominal fee. I have a whole health evaluation that I have you fill out, and it's all done by phone or Skype. And I go over that. I've been working with it so long, I can really pinpoint what's going on. And then I set up an hour phone consultation and go over what I see is happening there. And for hormones, by the time I'm through, any woman would know more about hormones than her doctor, because doctors aren't really trained in them. Which is really tragic. Plus, they're not trained in the bioidentical like you were describing. I've been on bioidentical hormones for 30 years. I would never go without them. They're fabulous, and they really, every single system in our body needs hormones. And so these sunscreens are disrupting every system of the body because they really are disruptive. They go and sit on the cell, and then they block your normal hormones from being able to do their job that they need to do.
I so appreciate that you just shared with us that you've been on bioidentical hormones for 30 years. Dr. Peters hasn't been on them for quite 30 years, but he shared his story as well. And hearing more and more educated physicians who are sharing about them helps people to understand that it isn't a scary subject. And like you just mentioned, the horse estrogen was going to cause problems because it's not bioidentical. And so people need to hear more about that. And that's why I have the show. So I appreciate you being here. And I definitely want to have you come back and do some more conversations about menopause and hormones. We had Dr. Alan Peters, so we had the male perspective, even though he talked about all of them, of course, but I'd love to have you on as well. So
I would love
Dr.
to.
Plourde,
Absolutely love to. It's very simple as long as you get the right information. And tragically, the right information isn't very abundant at this point. So I'm glad to share.
Great. Well, we look forward to having you back. Again, thank you so much for all the information that you've shared with us today about sunscreens and the good news about all the new foods that we're going to really focus on in order to get our natural sunscreen. So thank you again for being here.
That's great. And people can contact me. My email is elizabeth@newvoice.net. So new voice, older new, and voice is speaking. So elizabeth@newvoice.net. They can also call me 949-551-3397. And then the website is Sunscreens, Biohazard.com, as well as the electromagnetic radiation. That's EMFFreedom.com. EMF for electromagnetic field, freedom.com.
And all of your links will also be under the show on fit2love.tv. So if you didn't get to write all that down, or you're driving or working out while you're listening to this podcast, come back over to over to fit2love.tv, and all the links will be available to you under this show. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do you commit to an exercise program every year and then give up within the first 60 days? Are you ready to be accountable to yourself and uncover the personalized changes that will work for you long term? Consider the 30-day Jumpstart program. Visit the products page on fit2love.tv to get started today. The Fit to Love podcast show offers you 6 days a week of helpful content to achieve the happy life you deserve. Movement Mondays and Tasty Tuesdays are weekly videocasts, while Wellness Wednesdays, Thoughtful Thursdays, Freedom Fridays, and Sexy Saturdays are audio-only shows themed every week to address your holistic life and needs. If the show inspired you, we would love for you to share it and subscribe. Thank you so much for joining us today. Head on over to fit2love.tv for recaps of every show, resources, and to join the community. That's FIT2LOVE.tv. Have a fit and fabulous day.